I used to think suspicion was the same thing as paranoia. In my line of work, you learn that if you go looking for trouble, you will find it, even if you manufactured it in your head. I told myself that for months while my wife tightened her grip on her phone, while her shifts changed for no reason, while staff meetings multiplied like weeds, while overtime hours rose and the paychecks did not. I told myself it was the hospital, it was stress, it was anything except what my gut was whispering at 3 in the morning when I stared at the ceiling and played out every scenario I promised I would never play out in my own marriage. I have seen people at their worst. I have searched houses and cars and phones. I have watched deception breathe. I never wanted to be that man at home. I never wanted to point those skills at the person I vowed to love. I kept trying to talk myself down. Then the phone never left her hand. Then the case meetings ran late every other night. Then the laughter on the patio stopped because I could not stand the way her voice went flat when I asked about her day. It was like asking the wall to confess a secret. The wall pretended not to hear. A social worker with a heart for other people and a locked door for me. Funny how the kindest faces can turn into masks overnight and you do not remember the exact day it happened. You just wake up inside the new world and your old one is already gone. I come from federal work where decisiveness is not a personality trait, it is oxygen. You get a read, you commit. You do not bark a warning and give the target a chance to hide the stash. You do not ask a suspect for permission to look in the trunk. At home, I fought that instinct for as long as I could. I told myself that investigating my wife would be the beginning of the end, even if I found nothing, because you cannot unring the bell. Then a neighbor asked if my brother was visiting because a strange car spent an afternoon in my driveway when I was out of town. He mentioned the hood was cold. It is funny how a few words can break your ribs. You keep your face still, but your chest turns empty. I set the equipment because I knew how. Small cameras where they would not be seen. Audio placed where a whisper turns into a file. I told myself it was for security because that is not a lie. Security cameras can capture a break-in. Security cameras can capture a marriage falling down the stairs. I put the repeater where I could retrieve everything from my phone when I was away. It felt like loading a weapon I had sworn not to carry inside the house. I hated myself and did it anyway. I left town and tried to work. I told a trusted friend to swing by the house at odd hours and note what he saw. Not to knock. Not to play hero. Just note. He left me a message. I did not have to listen. I already knew. He used words like same car as last time and been there a while. I watched a cold hood sit in my driveway from 1,000 miles away. I flew home early and did not tell her. On the flight, I built 100 confrontations and burned them down one by one. Every version ended with me losing more than I kept. By the time we landed, I was out of fuel and full of rage. I did not go straight to the house. I cooled off at a friend's place because jail would be the worst way to end a marriage. I pulled up the footage instead. I watched the man step into my living room like he belonged there. I watched her press into him with a hunger I never recognized on her face. I listened to two people rehearse a script about chemistry and feeling seen, and I had to sit on my hands so I would not put my fist through the screen. She even managed to float the line about having a great life and how she could never leave me because I treated her so well. I suppose that is supposed to make me feel like I got a prize for being a chump. People love to keep their safety net while they bounce. The audio did not lie. The faces did not lie. The location did not lie. Our bedroom did not lie. There are some betrayals that feel like paper cuts, and some that feel like a pipe across the teeth. This one rang in my head. If you want the action sequence, there was none. No storming the house. No cuffing anyone to a radiator. I sat in a dark living room when she came home from work and I told her this was over. I carried a small bag with clothes and walked out while she cried so hard she could barely breathe. You can love someone while they are crying on your couch and still keep walking. People do not say that out loud, but it is true. Loyalty can make you stupid. It had made me stupid before. It was not going to this time. The next phase is the boring part everyone skips in movies. You hire a lawyer who does not flinch. You run the numbers and decide what peace costs. I told mine I did not want the house and I did not want a war if I could avoid it. I wanted the business protected and my retirement intact. I wanted out. If she left those alone, she could keep the four walls I hated. He sketched a game plan while I tried not to throw up on his conference table. I kept the taps rolling so she would know I knew, and I did not show them to anyone. That matters. Revenge porn will burn you too. I did not need a judge to tell me I was an idiot on top of everything else. I let the evidence sit where it belonged, silent and heavy and ready if someone forced my hand. Her family reached out because of course they did. They are cut from the same cloth, the kind that looks wholesome under good lights and rots in the wash. I cut them off. I cut them off with a cleaner slice than I thought I had in me. I will not pretend it was noble. It was survival. If you let them back in, they will widen every crack and call it reconciliation. You would think that is the end. It is not. The aftermath breeds more aftermath. She called nonstop, hundreds of times in a week while I was out on the East Coast for a job. She called the hotel and I had to block the front desk because apparently basic decency evaporates when people panic about losing their cake. She cried, she promised, she pulled out the lines cheaters collect like seashells. None of it mattered. I kept the number to my attorney in a note, and whenever she texted, I sent 7 digits and nothing else. I felt like a robot and a man at the same time. Every time my anger started to fade, I watched a few minutes of my own life from the ceiling of my bedroom, and the anger came back like a tide. I do not recommend it as therapy, but it kept me from slipping. I met the other wife because she deserved to know. I told her I had proof. She asked to see it. I warned her. She watched. I will not describe her face. There are looks you cannot unsee, and I have enough of my own. She brought her father, who happens to be a legal hammer on the West Coast. The good doctor suddenly found himself suspended pending an investigation, and he blustered about lawsuits and lies. The thing about men who threaten to sue is they rely on your fear. I have been threatened by worse. He hid in a car outside a coffee shop while my wife tried to convince me to save her job and marriage in the same breath. The scene would be hilarious if it were not my life. He crouched low like that would shrink him out of reality, and I tapped the glass on my way back to my own car. The human body can hold a lot of cowardice for a small frame. Lawyers did what lawyers do. We set mediation. She stalled and pleaded and performed. She said she would do anything, including counseling. I asked myself why anything does not happen before a body hits another bed. People always want therapy after the fire. They do not want to stop playing with matches in the garage. She said she had cut him off, and I stared at the timeline and did not waste a second debating it. She tried to bring reinforcements to coffee. I refused and met her alone. She sobbed in a way that would make strangers hand you water bottles. She wrapped herself in remorse that had no backbone. I said no and meant it. She pushed again, and I mentioned her grandmother because that matriarch is her soft spot. And if you think that was low, you should watch your marriage filmed in your own house and then decide how high you are required to climb. She signed the next day. Call it leverage. Call it the only language that finally translated. When the papers hit the table, it moved fast. I signed and left a room while she made a sound that was not quite human. I will not dress it up. Part of me felt satisfaction. You can judge me if you want. This is not a story about sainthood. I left behind the ring and the photos and anything that smelled like our life, packed them in boxes, rented a storage unit, and told my sister to pass along the key. The triumph her father gave me as a wedding gift sat there too, restored with my hands over years I will not get back. I could not look at it without tasting metal. The car is just metal and gas, people say. They are wrong. That car was 1,000 Saturdays and her laughing at my grease-stained shirt. It was a clean highway on a late summer night with a passenger who turned out to be a stranger. Let her have it. Let her choke on it. That is what I told myself when my chest tightened later, and I wondered if I had given away a piece of the man I was before all this. There were public scenes because shame finds its own stage. She melted down at my cousin's birthday party. Full collapse. the kind of crying that folds a body on itself. I carried her to her couch because I am not a monster, and I do not need an audience. I told her to move on and walked out. She wandered into my new condo a few times during drunk hours. I got the restraining order. You learn to pull every lever when someone pushes every boundary. You learn there is nothing noble about letting yourself be harassed into softness. The hospital finally did what it had to do. Standards of conduct mean something when people complain loudly enough or when enough pills go missing. I heard about fake scripts and non-existent patients. I heard about inventory reconciliations that did not reconcile. Rumors moved faster than elevators. It turned into suspensions and then terminations. I did not make that call. Consequences have a way of building their own gravity. He ended up out. She ended up out later, depending on which version of the story you catch in the nurse's lounge. I learned to stop tracking it like a case file. My sister told me enough to know the shape. I kept my distance from the details because details are what keep you awake. I took the job overseas. People keep saying it sounds fast. It was not. I had been in talks for 6 months. The divorce just kicked me into motion. I sold my part of the business to a friend I trusted and got on a plane. Some people will tell you you are running away. Some of them are projecting. A change of country is sometimes the only way to get fresh air after smoke damage. I found a place with a view that does not remind me of a driveway. I joined a gym and pushed iron until my legs trembled and the anger settled into my muscles like lactic acid and then left. I wish the story ended there. People like clean endings. The mess kept clawing out of the bag. A wedding happened back home. A friend I love like a brother. He invited me to the dinner, even though I could not be in the party. He did not tell the bride or my ex I was coming. That is not an accident, and he thought it was funny. I walked in late, travel worn, and the room went silent like a scene. I saw matching gasps at the front. I saw my ex and the bride. I saw the man who used my bed sitting in front of me later at the ceremony, sweating through his collar when he turned and locked eyes with me. I left because staying would have been a slow car crash, and I did not want to bleed on someone else's day. Later, I called my friend an idiot and he laughed, and then he got chewed out by his new wife. And I realized I needed to step back from that whole circle. Sometimes growing up means you outgrow the people you built your young stories with. Sometimes they become background characters who cannot help but manufacture drama because that is the only way they know to feel alive. I made mistakes. I thought I was steadier than I was. I learned at a rehearsal dinner that seeing a ghost can shake your bones even if you swore you were done haunting the house. I left the reception like a coward and like a wise man at the same time. I beat myself up the whole night and then admitted to myself that non-contact exists for a reason, and I broke it. When you break it, pain leaks in. It is not complicated. It just sucks. She sent an 11-page letter written like a confession, and I edited it with a red pen because petty is underrated. My sister made it worse by pointing out another misspelling to her face. I laughed when I heard that, and then later I felt gross. I am not above pettiness, and I am not proud of it. She heard rumors he was sleeping with yet another nurse. He showed up to work looking like someone used him to paint a driveway with fists. There was talk of another husband, a big guy named JR, who caught his wife in a garage with our favorite character and tuned him up on the lawn until a patrol car rolled by. I got the update in a phone call while I was making breakfast in a kitchen that does not know me yet. I shook my head and thought about how consequences line up like dominoes, and people call it karma because it makes them feel like someone is keeping score. Maybe someone is, maybe not. Either way, the lawn stains. She kept trying to triangulate through my family. Calls to my parents that started polite and ended desperate. I told my family to block and ignore and hand everything to my father if needed. He called my former father-in-law because they always got along and men of a certain generation can nip things if they want to. The calls slowed and then stopped. I resisted the urge to handle it face to face because I do not need one more scene to replay at 2 in the morning. The hospital let both of them go. The board looked at complaints. The gossip died down and turned into the next gossip because that is how workplaces breathe. I focused on not letting new names root in my head. I stopped asking my sister for updates. I told her I did not want to know if they were together or not. Together or not changes nothing. The bed is still the bed. The video still exists without me pressing play. The person I married still drew a map to my house for another man and told him there were no traps. There are people who think I am cold for not offering a second chance. I disagree. I am plenty warm. I feel everything in my stomach and my chest and my hands. I just do not mistake those feelings for orders. I take care of them, and then I take care of myself. If that sounds like pride, good. Pride kept me from crawling back into a place where I would spend the next decade monitoring a phone log like an unpaid night watchman. Pride kept me from twisting vows into something I could not recognize. Pride got me on a plane. Pride has me typing this instead of drunk texting someone who does not deserve another drop of my attention. There is a difference between love and trust that sounds obvious until you have to live it. You can love a person long after trust is dead. The love just turns into a weight you carry until you decide to set it down. I carried it a while. I set it down piece by piece. Sometimes I still reach back without meaning to. That is why I lift heavy things and run until my lungs burn. That is why I leave my phone in a drawer at night. That is why I stop myself from asking my sister what she heard in the break room today. Discipline is not just an external thing. It is not just the camera or the legal plan or the way you keep your mouth shut. It is how you keep your eyes pointed at the life you're building now instead of the wreck you already crawled out of. I boxed up our life and left it in a storage unit for her. I watched her choke on the realization that the old Triumph sat there waiting for someone who would never drive it again. I felt a small, ugly thrill and then a flood of pity. Both feelings can coexist. People like to pretend you have to pick one. You do not. I wish her a life where she learned something real. I do not plan to be in it. If that makes me the villain in her version, fine. Villains sleep sometimes. I get messages from strangers telling me I handled this like a professional and messages telling me I am heartless. The truth is somewhere in between. I handled it like a man who knows how to gather facts and act on them, and I broke down in private more than I told anybody. Nights in a new city where the silence hums like a transformer, and you would pay $1,000 to stop your brain from replaying the same 3 minutes of footage. I cut out mutual friends because the circus has enough clowns without me buying a ticket. It is not personal, except it is. If your idea of support includes surprise cameos by exes and their side characters at weddings, we are done. Build your new circle slowly and check it twice. Family is not always safe either. I audited mine and kept the ones who hold the line. The others can watch from the bleachers and call it distance. The last contact was not a scream or a cry. It was paperwork. My attorney arranged it, so I stepped into a room, signed, and left while other people did the theater. I felt light for the first time in months, and then heavy with a kind of delayed grief I did not expect. I sat in my car in the parking garage and let it hit. No tears, just a big stillness. The kind you get after a storm when the air tastes like metal, and you know there will be mold if you do not open the windows soon. I am opening windows. I am learning a new city by running its bridges. I am learning to cook food that does not come in a takeout box. I am dating casually and stepping back when my body tells me I am about to repeat a pattern. I am finding that there is peace in choosing quiet over chaos. I am finding that the world is large enough for 1,000 new mornings that do not look anything like the one where I hit play. If you are reading this because you think something is wrong in your house and you are praying you are crazy, I cannot tell you what to do. I can tell you that ignoring your gut does not make it stop talking. I can tell you that facts will not kill you even if they feel like it for a while. I can tell you that you are allowed to protect yourself without apologizing. And I can tell you that love without trust is a slow poison. People can live with poison for a long time. They call it compromise, and they call it maturity, and they buy new sheets and force smiles in photos. Or they stop swallowing it and go outside. Either way costs you. Pick your bill. I used to wonder when the hatred would go away. It is fading. Slowly. then suddenly, then back again, in little waves that pass through and leave less behind each time. I think forgiveness is overrated by people who want their mess swept up for them. I am not there, and I do not need to be. What I have is enough. A life that is mine. A set of boundaries that do not bend when someone cries. A future that does not run through a woman who treated our home like a motel and our bed like a prop. People ask for closure like it is a document you can get stamped and filed. I do not know if I will ever get the official seal. What I have is a decision I do not second guess. I picked myself, and I keep picking myself. And the more times I do it, the less it feels like a betrayal of the vows, and the more it feels like a vow I should have made in the first place. Protect yourself. Do not let anyone turn your kindness into rope. This is me closing the door, not slamming it, just locking it. I will keep the keys where I cannot reach them when I am tired. I will let the car rust in someone else's memory. I will stop trying to do autopsies on a relationship that died the moment another man walked through my front door and acted like it was his. I will not watch the footage again. I do not need to. I know how it ends. I know how it continues too. With me, in the present tense, putting one foot in front of the other and refusing to make a shrine to pain. If there is such a thing as the other side, I can see it now. It looks like a morning that belongs to me. It looks like a clean bed that does not have to explain itself. It looks like peace that does not ask permission.